your eyes. And you know, they had soul, they were into it, and this guy would sing against them. I mean, it's the rudest thing you can possibly imagine. I mean, imagine if you know, Lou Reed were trying to give a performance and the guy in the third row just launched into Old Man River and kept at it. You know, I mean, in this town, I'm sure large guys would appear and say, "Sir." In Peru, it didn't work like that. They just kept singing. He kept singing. And it was clear that this is how it was going to be handled, that we had just divided into two separate entities here. Well, my wife was sitting next to me, and he was sitting across the room from us, the Sobrino, and I had been watching him for a long time, and I was loaded to the gills, and I could see he would get up on his haunches, and he looked like a monkey. His face, it was uncanny. I mean, he looked like a monkey, and he also looked kind of like a jackal, a dog with long teeth. He kept going through these changes, and Kat leaned over to me and said something like, "This guy's an asshole," and I just said, you know, let it slide. What do we know? Think of it as anthropology. But she wasn't having it. So after a while, he kept doing this, and at one point, and everybody in the room, every person in the room was bummed out, and they were looking at their laps. All eye contact was broken. It's actually, when I was a kid, I invented a word. The word is fardao, and it means the embarrassment you feel when someone else fucks up. You know, and you happen to just be there, but somehow the aura of it is so strong. So the entire room is just awash in fardao, and the old guys are singing, and the guy is singing. So then at the end of a particularly intense clash of these two styles, my wife just looked across the room at this guy and like put the whammy on him. And I saw these red arrows leave her eyes and like dotted lines go across her. And they moved fairly slowly, you know, more slowly than you could throw a ball or something. Well, when this line of red arrows got to this guy, he was knocked off his feet. He fell backwards with his legs in the air, and there was a big noise. And all the singing stopped, and everybody in the room looked up, and these three old shaman who were sitting behind Don Fidel, who I to that point had not heard speak any language but Quechua, one turned to the other and he says in Spanish, "Oh, the gringa sends the Zaburra."
I had an experience earlier this summer, which I probably shouldn't tell, but I will, that is an example of how it gets weird. A friend of mine moved to London and left me his library for unspecified amount of time to keep. A very bizarre library, mostly Platonic stuff, a lot of magic, a lot of that sort of thing. And so we built a book loft for it, and our house is wedge-shaped, and so this book loft is way up at the top of the house. And I was alone in the house, and I took 7 dried grams, and I was sitting there, and it was just beginning to come on. I was in the show what you know thing phase, and it was beginning to show what it knew. There was this disrupted area of space in front of me where it was like rotating, and I was looking into it and talking to it. And I was actually speaking. At first I was just speaking in my mind, then I began speaking loud. I was saying, "You are a beautiful thing, you are beautiful." And suddenly things changed, and it became very cold, and meaning the temperature fell suddenly. And the dog next door, who never howls, howled. And the cat, which was down below me. It was up in this loft looking down at our bed. The cat was on the bed. The cat flared out and made this really weird noise. And I just, I stopped what I was doing and projected my mind into this situation. And at that moment I heard this sound, which was like, and then something settled onto the roof, sufficient to make the 6 by 14-inch beam creak in. Just went, and I was floored. And I just sat for a minute, and I was not frightened. In fact, my emotion was hard to get back to, but I wasn't frightened. But just at that moment, this thing was really coming on, and really visually peculiar, and it seemed like the two things were independent. The trip was getting stronger and stronger, but a 10-ton something had landed on the roof beam of my house. So I just sat with it for about 30 seconds, and then this thought or voice came, and it was, this thing has come because of something I'm doing, and that means that I can get rid of it. So I just turned like this up toward the roof and projected this thought very strongly, which was, "Begone! I am in conversation with an elder." And this thing went, "Woo!" And there was a long pause, 10 seconds or so, and then whatever it was, it lifted off the roof and went away. And what was weird about this was I had never ever used in my own mind this phrase, "an elder," to describe the mushroom. It was like just came out of me. And the whole episode seemed real weird to me. And I just let it ride. But that's an instance where, there is this, let's call it synchronicity, so that we don't have to believe that a pterodactyl lifted on my roof. There is this synchronicity. For some reason, there chose to be a fluttering sound and the beam chose to creak. Now, doubtless this has to do with temperature and the cooling of day to night. But, it was a thing to go through.
This is my ending story for the afternoon. I don't present it as a summation, but it amuses me. For those of you who don't like Jewish jokes, you will notice as this joke is told that it is easily translated into a Zen mode, a Sufi mode. I just like the Jewish flavor. There were two rabbis, extremely advanced high rabbis, Talmud, great men of accomplishment, and they were at the temple, and one of them prayed. He said, "Lord," stood up and spoke aloud, and he said, "Lord, I am nothing." And then he sat down. The other guy got up, and he said, "Lord, I am nothing." And there was a guy there sweeping the floor, a custodial person. And he thought, well, people are praying. We've got a prayer in here. So he stood up and said, "Lord, I'm nothing." And the first rabbi looked at the second rabbi and he said, "So look who thinks he's nothing." That's it. That's a story about the imagination. I grew up in western Colorado, and we prided ourselves on being Westerners. Every time I come south, I realized the place where I grew up was south, but like schizoid about it, and never
owned up to the fact that the psychology of North Carolina is more what Western Colorado is about than the psychology of Southern California by any stretch. Anyway, not to wander, I grew up in this place, and I was curious. And I think curiosity is the psychedelic virtue. It's the precondition for finding your way into the presence of this answer, intellectual curiosity. And I was told, well, you know, there were dinosaurs here 100 million years ago, and 50 million years before that, there was an ocean here. And we would go out into the dry arroyos and sandstone country, and here would be these seashells and spiral ammonites and stuff. And I was obsessed with the sea because I had never seen it. I didn't see the ocean until I was 14 years old. And yet here was evidence of the ocean in some of the driest and most shattered desert country you could ever see. And so I got the message, and the message is the world is not what it appears to be. Where there are deserts, one finds evidence of oceans. Where there are wastelands, one finds evidence of jungles. And by extension, where there is love, one can uncover animosity and conflict. Where there is hate, one can uncover love and community. So very early I got the notion things are not as they appear to be.
What is it? I've had about enough of this. They can't pay me enough to protect these caravans.
There's a lot of uncertainty in Belkarth these days, but you can rest assured we'll take good care of your valuables here.
The Celestial Mage? You were at the observatory earlier, weren't you? I thought I saw you talking to Hara. Are you going to visit the tavern? If so, watch out for 2 lunatic high elves. I don't know if they're dangerous, but you can never tell. The 2 high elves inside the tavern claim, quite loudly in fact, that they are aspects of the mage. The very celestial that fell from our starry skies. I took my drink and came out here. My companion, not so lucky. They're asking the stargazers to help them put the pieces back together or some such nonsense. Even offered to let me touch some strange relic to see the truth. But let me tell you, nothing good has ever come from touching strange relics. When the High Elves approach you, remember that I warned you. Those women have a strange way of spotting anything related to the Stargazers. And guess what? If you're working with Hara, you're related to us now.
My mounts are bred strong to cross mountainous terrain. The Gold Coast Trading Company is one of my best customers. I'm also happy to take care of your animal for a fair price.